Good afternoon, everyone. Have you ever had an interaction with a chatbot or virtual assistant that left you feeling frustrated? My name is Jamie Renahan, and today I'm going to talk to you about ways to make chatbots more human. Let's begin with the history of chatbots and how they work. So we'll start off in the 1950s with the famous mathematician Alan Turing. You may have heard of the Turing test, which is basically a test of a computer's ability to communicate indistinguishably from a human. So this is often the yardstick by which modern chatbots and AI engines are measured off. So following on from there, in the 1960s in MIT, the first chatbot was Eliza, which was a therapist chatbot. And this was quite a simple system based off rules, also known as a decision tree. And this was effectively the initial start of the research from MIT, and where a lot of the modern chatbots and their development would originate from. We have a series of chatbots that would have followed all the way through the 70s and the 80s, the likes of Parry in 1972, and then development continued into the 90s, where we had famous chess game between Garry Kasparov and IBM's Deep Blue. And again, this was supposed to displaying the advances in technology and how these artificial intelligence systems were being developed to the point where they could compete with and display human characteristics and intelligence. And I think subsequently we went on in IBM's development towards Watson, and then with the proliferation of mobile devices over the last 10, 15 years, we're now seeing these become commercially available and standard in many homes, the likes of Alexa and Siri and Google Assistant. And a lot of these technologies are powering devices and music in our homes today. Again, the evolution of chatbots, they started off with very basic scripted engines, limited functionality, and limited phrases to interact with humans and users. Intent recognition was the next step to try to understand what the user was trying to achieve with the interaction with the chatbot. Conversation chatbots starting to introduce natural language processing technology to manage complex and multi-intent conversations, not just a single intent. This was based off users that would have a number of different criteria in a conversation or a number of different tasks they would be asking of the chatbot. And this is moving forward today towards consultative chatbots, which are more advanced and capable of understanding sentiment and what we're looking to achieve with a conversation, and indeed, in some occasions, to kind of predict what our next steps or our next needs will be. So chatbots, initial chatbots, they operated using a decision tree, which I mentioned, also known as rule-based chatbots, very limited in functionality. And these chatbots would follow a predetermined path or a list of questions that you could kind of go through. And if a user deviated from any of those, then the chatbot would not be able to expand on that. It was limited in functionality. And this has progressed towards the chatbots and assistants that we have today, which are developed based on natural language processing, effectively through natural language understanding, in order to understand what it is we're trying to do or what tasks we are asking of the chatbot, all the way through to natural language generation, to be able to have conversations, two-way conversations with us engage in conversations, build that engagement, and progress from there depending on how the conversation goes. So we're seeing those two subsets of natural language processing that I mentioned there, and that's the understanding and the generation. Now let's talk about what makes a chatbot more human. So again, with the proliferation of mobile devices, we're seeing chatbots take on the form of voice. So this is instead of interacting purely on a text-based web interface, this is where voice is introduced in agents that we commonly use today, like Alexa and Siri. And these, again, the characteristics that come along with these systems would have name, age, and origin. So they have a story which allows them to be more relatable to us as humans. And again, a personality or a way of engaging would be something that would allow us to engage as well and build rapport. So that personality is a key point, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. So engaging users with small talk to build a friendly rapport. So why is this important? Well, if we look at our own interactions that we have, be it with customer service agents on telephone or in person or via the web, it can benefit a lot from us as humans not going straight to the point that we're looking from the task. So oftentimes there's simple things like greetings, asking people how they're doing today. So that little interaction that we do before we get to the task that we're having in conversations, this can be mimicked with chatbots as well, rather than those more rudimentary ones that cut straight to the chase and miss the opportunity to build rapport. Emotional intelligence, this is another feature that's now possible. And if we look at computer vision, this is the opportunity for chatbots now to have that video functionality. So it's no longer just voice-based. We can actually introduce video as well. And facial emotion recognition is something that is now possible. By that, I mean, if somebody is on the phone or talking to a chatbot via web interface or mobile device, then that user's facial expression could indicate their mood or their sentiment, and that can be useful. And along with that, we have the possibility of expanding the voice element too, which means that the tone of a customer engaging with the likes of Siri or Alexa. It's now very interesting to note that, because that could indicate through tone that the customer is upset, and the chatbot can build rapport on that basis. Self-awareness, this is, as humans, we understand that it is possible for us not to know the answer to something. And I think that some of the basic chatbots fall down. They're not really too sure how to handle situations like that. Whereas having the self-awareness and knowing the limitations is something that can make a chatbot have human characteristics. Slowing down in terms of response time is important. Again, we like to think about answers before we respond ourselves. And sometimes if we are greeted with a response to our question and we get a string of text straight away that comes very fast, that's a little bit more for us to process. So what's good in that situation is to take a little bit of time, a couple of seconds, particularly if it's a complex query from a customer, and again, avoid long questions. Dealing with surprise, happiness, and gratitude. These are all things that we respond to in the middle of conversations or interactions, and the ability of an AI device or chatbot to respond to this is also critical. Let's talk briefly about ways to test a chatbot, to check how advanced it is, to check its capability. So these are common ways that we can do that. Talking about current events, so if you're interacting with a chatbot or assistant, you can ask questions on current events. And I think that's something that we can do, testing the likes of Alexa with questions about what the weather is like or what events are taking place and that's something that we can use along with Smalltalk. Being familiar with Smalltalk as a device, it allows it to delay getting straight into what the customer wants and to build rapport. Another way of checking a chatbot is after an initial interaction or a couple of questions that you have asked, you might test a chatbot and go back and say something like, "What was my name?" or "What was the first question that I asked?" And this will check a chatbot's ability to recall. And we know that it is important with data storage and analytics and insights to remember what's happened earlier on in the conversation. And again, even as humans, we don't always remember chats that we had with friends 2 or 3 weeks ago, but there is the capability for good chatbots to do this. And this is very important in building rapport. Ability to handle complexity, again, complex questions, understanding limitations, and being able to pass questions on to others or a physical agent, human agent, is also a good way of setting up a chatbot system. Ability to understand emotions, we talked about that earlier on. The tone can be through text. You can understand if a customer is getting frustrated and handle that accordingly. Or again, with the introduction of video, it becomes possible to look at body language and facial expression. Now, this is a chatbot that has won a number of times the Loebner Prize for AI and chatbots, and this is called Mitsuku. And this is a conversation that I will take you through to show aspects of how a chatbot can show human characteristics and display understanding. So this chatbot, to those who know it, is also known as Cookie, and it's renowned as being one of the better chatbots around at the moment. So this is an example of a conversation containing small talk. So this is just general rapport that we can get into with a chatbot before we get straight into what it is we're looking for the chatbot to do for us, what task we want. So this is just general conversation, me having a chat with the chatbot to understand what it is I'm doing. And in this case, I'm giving a talk on chatbots, and I get a response of that. So the keyword there, giving, is reciprocated in the engine with a playful joke that is very generous of me for doing that. So this is just injecting a little bit of personality. This is just a question test. So again, we have an early interaction or whatever, and the question that I'm asking is, in this case, is what was the first question that I asked? And then I get the response back that I was introducing myself and giving my name. Emotional awareness. So in this case, I'm talking to the chatbot, giving details of my emotion, that I'm feeling sad, and then questions are coming back about that. I have had a long day at work, and the chatbot responds with that it has had a long day too. And then I ask to be cheered up, and then I get a joke at the end of it. So again, just displays something a little bit different that a lot of the chatbots that we interact with today miss out on some of these advanced features. So these are things that are coming in future development. I'm going to end on this interesting quote, which has come from an AI journalist, and it shows the capability and the opportunity that we have with chatbots. So in this case, for millennials, chatbots are a natural extension of texting. Millennials have grown up with the internet and responsive on-demand devices. So this idea in this case is younger customers and users are now growing up very comfortable on their mobile devices, and as a result, oftentimes prefer text-based interactions with advanced bots than having to in-person or phone calls. So there's the opportunity for us to use this trust that is being developed with younger users and their devices. So thank you for your attention and taking the time to join this talk today. and I hope you enjoy the remainder of the summit.